they say things just like the biggest thing is having meat in your house, right? So they say that they could not live with someone and have meat in the house, smell it being cooked, or even kiss someone who just ate meat because like it smells. And or they say that they couldn't have sex with a meat eater because it's like having a sex with a corpse, like all kinds of crazy, crazy things. And you know,
Hello and welcome to the Vegan Little Podcast. I am sitting here with an incredible individual. She's in Canada and she is fighting for so many people out there that are looking for love. This is going to be a very interesting podcast, very unique. We haven't quite talked about this topic at all. So we're going to be really focused on love and finding potentially your future lover. All right, so her name is Karen and she is the vegan matchmaker, also known as Vegan Cupid, and the creator of the Find Veg Love website.com, where you can find love and you can go and find her new masterclass, which looks amazing. If you're looking for love, you definitely got to try that. So with that introduction, I would like to ask you what I call the quick vegan questions. All right, so ideally they're supposed to be relatively quick, but if it's a really strong topic and you really want to add some more, by all means, go ahead. All right, you ready for that?
sounds good.
All right, excellent. So, question number one. What do you think it would take to get to a vegan world?
Well, I mean, it's pretty amazing now what's happening in 2020 and what just happened in 2019 with the explosion of Beyond Meat. I mean, I have never thought that I would live to see where we're at now. And I just think that if more and more companies explode like them, like there will be so many more vegans, and it's like an amazing time to be vegan and to be able to see this, because I've been vegan for 15 years. And let me tell you, 15 years ago, it was very, very difficult to be vegan. So I definitely see like so much things like, that will continue moving towards that direction.
Awesome. So besides vegan burgers, you think there's anything else that's going to take to get a vegan world? Because that's a good step. That's a good step.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, with things like climate change and the recent fires in Australia, I think it's opening up the eyes of more people, and it will take more devastation, unfortunately, for people to really realize what's happening with the planet.
Yeah, it's crazy how we respond to tragedy, and I even think about my own life. I mean, part of why I am vegan and part of why I am who I am today now is because of a tragedy that happened in my life, and I think that kind of shapes us and changes us, sometimes for the good, sometimes not for good, right? So it just depends. Yeah. All right, great. Thank you. So question number two. Why do you think it happens in the news? It's so important in the news. Not all the time, but you see that the report of a baby that had died because of a vegan diet. Like, what the heck is up with that?
That's total nonsense is what it is. I do not know what is up with that. It's a crazy one.
Like, of all the dying children in the world, like, why this one random one is in the news where supposedly a poor diet?
I think it's because they have it out for vegans and they just wanted to give us a bad name.
Just looking for anything to prove it wrong, right? Yeah. All right, so question number three, mock meats or not mock meats, since you mentioned the Beyond Burger.
Oh, yeah.
For you personally.
Yes. but in moderation, not every day, but a couple times a week, it's fine. I love them. My favorite is actually Gardein.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Yeah, a lot of people, it's so weird when I was watching something yesterday, I think, where people were like, I don't understand. Why would you make, I think it was something about Veganuary, and it was on the news, and there was like, I don't know why they had like a KFC vegan chicken, right? And they were like, I don't understand why vegans would want to eat this, or why people would want to eat this if they're not trying to eat meat. Why not just eat the real thing? It's like the disconnect is still so real, why do we eat that? And for me, it's like, I ate burgers like 3, 4, 5 times a week. before I was vegan, like now that I am vegan, like I still want to eat that much,
Yeah.
so it's just, I don't really want to change my diet. I didn't want to change. I didn't want to change how I eat it. You know what I mean? I wanted to stay the same, and eat the same things. So now I just eat the same things. You know what I mean? Most of
Yeah.
the time,
For
right? Except
me,
for, yeah.
yeah, for me, it's not, I didn't stop eating meat because I didn't like the taste of it. It was because of the animals, right? But with that being said, though, I am grossed out though with like, I can't remember which one it is, if it's the Beyond Meat or whatever that like bleeds when you cook it, like that's too far for me. That grosses me out. Like,
Yeah, that one's interesting, right? All right, cool. So number three or number four, what is the biggest myth about veganism to you? What do you think the biggest myth is that's still out there that needs to be busted?
um, that just because you're vegan means you're healthy,
Yeah,
because you can also be overweight and be vegan. So yes, a lot of people lose weight when they go vegan, but if you're just eating like processed stuff and lots of junk, which is like, which is vegan, well, you're not going to be healthy. So
yeah, for sure. Because it's weird when like a vegan is sick or whatever, you know what I mean? And then it's like, oh, that that's because you're vegan. It's just like so, it's so silly, right? Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
I agree.
All right, so question number five: why wouldn't a vegan want to date a meat eater?
That is a very, very hot question that I actually recently posed in the Fine Veg Love Facebook group that I run, and the answers were all over the place. It's like a common discussion, and it just like anything else, there's just so many levels of veganism, right? It's a huge spectrum, and there's people have different reasons for being vegan, and for them, if it really, yeah, that's like a huge discussion. And I think that as a vegan, you can date a meat eater, but it requires that meat eater to be like super understanding and respectful, and like it requires a certain kind of person. It is not everyone that it will work out with. I do know some vegans who have been married to meat eaters for a very long time, and it works for them, but again, it makes it way harder. There's no question about it. So I never like to say that like things are impossible, because I'm very optimistic, and I know that it works for some people, but for a lot of people it just does not work.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, I didn't know if I would ever find love when I went vegan, and I was like, oh great, I'll never find someone because like I was already like a certain amount of pickiness, you know what I mean, and then just adding vegan to the mix was just like great, game over for me. So I just stopped trying and stopped looking. But it was funny how it happened because I found love, with someone, that wasn't vegan, but they were open minded and they were willing to try and they did try the things. And I mean, the first time I ever talked about why vegan and explained it, you know what I mean? Like we weren't together yet, but they were eating chicken, you know what I mean? And we are just talking about it at a meal. And that was the last time she ate chicken, after after what I said to that,
That's
and I
amazing.
mean now she's full on vegan and now she's cooking and she's making recipes and she's doing her thing,
Yeah, and that's
and
awesome.
it's so cool to see, and like you can see the health and the happiness and it's just like whatever happens, I just feel like I did a good thing and I did the right thing, so I think it feels good. But I understand your how you say it can happen, but what are some of the reasons? What do people say? Like why I couldn't date a meat eater because this? Like what are some reasons? What are people saying?
Oh, they say things just like the biggest thing is having meat in your house, right? So they say that they could not live with someone and have meat in the house, smell it being cooked, or even kiss someone who just ate meat because like it smells. And or they say that they couldn't have sex with a meat eater because it's like having a sex with a corpse, like all kinds of crazy things. And I'm really of the opinion of like to not be judgmental and just like realize like we weren't all born vegan, right? At one point we ate meat too. So again, I've seen it both sides, and I'm not judgmental whatsoever. I'm all about being open-minded, and really what it comes down to is respect. And I hear horror stories of vegans going on dates with meat eaters, and their dates like basically make fun of them the whole time for being vegan, or they ask them a million questions like, where to get your protein? Are you like low in this or that? Or like, what do you eat? And it just like, food is just such a huge part of our daily life. Like, we eat every single day. And when you don't have that in common with someone, it makes it so difficult. So yes, if you're vegan, being with a vegan, you're starting on the same level playing field. It's going to make it that much easier, because relationships are very, very complicated. So when you start off with having the same moral values and ethics, it really helps. And again, it can be vegan and they can be wrong for you. So just because they're vegan, it doesn't mean that they're right. So I always tell my clients that that's a super important distinction. Like, they have to be vegan, but they also have to match up on all your other things that are important to you.
I would also imagine that potentially a vegan couple or a vegan relationship could be even stronger than a typical one, because of that special bond that you share. Like, what do you think about that? You think that's true?
Yes, you feel more connected to someone who has the same moral values as you when it comes to veganism, because being vegan, we all go through different stages, and you can feel really alone. And especially if like no one in your family is vegan and you feel like an outsider and they just don't get it, like, to have a vegan partner, it just makes it so much easier, like the day-to-day stuff. And it's not just about what you eat, right? It's also like the activities you do. So I have like some clients that told me that, their date wanted to take them to the zoo because they like animals so much. And like, that's the disconnect right there, right? Like, yeah, I love animals, but I don't want to go to a
Let's
zoo.
go to SeaWorld. I love animals.
Right? Someone
Yeah.
who's not like most non-vegans, they just don't get it. So yeah, it has to do with the dates, or like, I've had clients where they've gone on a date with a meat eater and they've picked like a steakhouse to go to on a date. And it's just like, what am I going to eat at a steakhouse?
Like, you
So
have a baked potato.
yeah. So again, it's like, I just find that when you're vegan and you go on dates with other vegans, it just makes the date so much more enjoyable, because that's like not even like on the table for discussion. Like, you're both vegan and that's that, and you can go check out like that awesome vegan restaurant, or do fun stuff like go to farm sanctuaries together. It's like, good luck bringing someone who's not vegan to a farm sanctuary. Like, they're gonna think you're crazy.
Yeah, for sure. All right, awesome. Yeah, that's great. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Thank you so much for the vegan questions, by the way. You did great.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm Karen, as you know, also known as Vegan Cupid, and my background is in event planning. I have over 15 years of event planning experience, and I moved to California a very, very long time ago. And it was during like the crash. There was no jobs whatsoever. So I decided, you know what? I'm just going to start my own business. And it's never something I ever thought that I would do. But I did it. And I took a 3-month small business program. It was all for women. It was amazing. And I wanted to do events. And then when I was going through the program, I realized that I wanted to combine my passion for veganism and event planning together. So I decided that I would produce vegan events. And I was in California, so like no better place to do that. So over the years, I experimented and I produced events that had never been done before, like vegan events. I did a vegan fashion show. I did a vegan Iron Chef competition for 3 years. I produced an event called Berkeley Vegan Earth Day for 5 years. So I worked on a lot of like really, really cool stuff, which was amazing. And then while I was there, I kind of started the veg speed date events just for fun on the side of it, really. I had friends that said they couldn't find any vegan men. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to find them for you. I had never done a speed dating event in my life. I was married at the time. And so I just kind of did it. And then it kind of started like that. And then I moved back to Canada about 4 years ago. And then that's when I started doing the speed dating events all over US and Canada. And so, yeah, I've been in the vegan event scene for a very, very long time. And I love dogs. I've rescued 4 dogs. So dogs are a big part of my life. And yeah, I enjoy working out, um, eating vegan food and cooking vegan food.
Yeah, of course. That's awesome. So, tell us a little bit about your story. Like, why did you decide to go vegan 15 years ago? Man, that must have been such a different time, such a different. I mean, it's so different than today, and especially the options like we were talking about. You know, the Beyond Meat burgers and all the things that are available for someone to eat. You know, I can only imagine it was much harder than like what made you make the connection back then that so many people are making today.
Yeah, so for me, growing up, I have this memory of when I was really young watching this movie, and I can't remember what it's called now, but they were roasting a pig, and it traumatized me. Like literally traumatized me to the point where like I didn't eat meat for like 2 weeks. And that was like my oldest memory that I remember of like being like, whoa, like this is just wrong. And I always kind of like was interested in eating more vegetarian food. And I was living in Montreal at the time. Some coworkers told me about a vegan restaurant that was just down the street from McGill University, and I tried it out and I loved it. I was like, holy shit! Like, I felt amazing, and I never had that feeling before of like eating a huge meal and feeling really good. And so I told my husband about it at the time, and I kind of like planted a seed that way, I think. But really what did it was he was in law school and he took a class, and it was animals on the law or something like that. And the professor was actually vegan, and she was talking about factory farms. And so that was like, he started doing research like first class about it, and that's what was really like the huge eye opener for us. And so we had no idea about factory farming at all, and then the more like we read about it and found out about it, we just said like, this is crazy, we want no part in it. And literally like a week after we found out about it, we went vegan. I went vegetarian because I loved cheese just like everybody else. So cheese was the hardest thing for me, but I gave it up after a month. And yeah, and then really, so for me, it was just all about the animals. And I obviously it's hard when you first go vegan. You have to learn how to cook all over again. I only knew one vegan at the time, but then my vegan circle expanded and expanded, and there was a group of us in Montreal, all vegans, and we would get together and have potlucks every week, and like we had a blast. So that really helped me at the beginning stages, is having that great network.
Yeah, I mean that's an amazing story, and that's so cool that you had an opportunity to make a connection when you were that young. I think a lot of people nowadays, you know, when they go vegan, one of their biggest regrets is that they didn't go sooner. They wish they knew some of this information, and I personally have been thinking a lot about that myself in my style of activism. When I say how do I connect to people and who's the best person to connect to, and I think about the younger generation, and I think about how they're being taught, you know, exactly the same as the previous generation and the previous generation on what to eat. And so I sometimes question what's the best way to connect with them. And one of the ways that I found that's working pretty well right now is through an app called TikTok, which is totally the opposite of LinkedIn, which is where we met. It's on the opposite spectrum, you know what I mean, of the social platforms. But it's interesting because there's a younger generation there, you know. So seeing the way that you can the different style of activism, you know, you communicate through song and dance and video, you know what I mean. And if you could communicate that message to them, you know, they'd have a better chance of receiving that message and doing some more research, like just like you did, you know. So I think that is. That's super cool that a lot of people don't get that opportunity to see those sort of things. I mean, most of us, like imagine how long you would have gone in your life, just going along the way that you were, if you didn't see
Yep.
that, so yeah, that's great. So the next thing that I really want to know, that I was really interested in, is what are you doing now to be active for the animals? Like now that you kind of maybe found your passion and you found the event planning and you decided to take things to the next level. What are some of the things that you're working on?
Yeah, well, I've been working on it for quite some time because, like I said, with my events, they were all vegan, and the goal was really to bring more awareness to veganism through my events. So I was able to successfully do that for many, many years, which was an amazing feeling, and that was really my form of activism, was just and also giving something to other vegans who couldn't otherwise like enjoy it, right? So there weren't that, like back then there weren't that many vegan events as there are today. Like now they're like all over the place, but back then there weren't that many. So it was just about like being able to go to an event and have all the vegan food and have everything there be vegan. Like that was amazing, and you felt connected, and you met people, right? And then the speed dating events that I talked to you about before, literally, they just started by my vegan friend saying she couldn't find a vegan man. And so I literally did it just for the fun of it on the side, while I was working on these big, huge events. And they really took off. And again, that was creating a platform for singles, veg singles, to be in a room full of other vegetarians and vegans with all the same common goal. And that just like, it's so powerful to be able to experience something like that, because unfortunately it's not a vegan world yet. We're working towards that, but that just like, it makes you feel more normal. You go, like, you went in there, you weren't judged because of your lifestyle choices. And so that was super, super powerful. And I'm so grateful that I was able to provide that platform for as long as I did.
Yeah, so there's two things I want to comment on. One, first is the social aspect that you were talking about veganism before, and how that really helped you. And I think that's a very, very important topic. Anyone that's either listening right now or anyone that's watching, that is maybe thinking about doing this or maybe has just started, something to really, really consider is getting a network and getting a group of friends, and finding people online, and finding other people with similar um, beliefs and passions, so that you can lean on them, in the times of need, and learn from them, in the times when they're sharing, things to learn. And then the second thing I want to say is, so what are you doing now within that within your business, within the Find Veg Love? So how's that going?
Yeah, so I retired from doing the Veg Speed Date events in December 2019. And that's a whole other long story, but now I'm doing full-time matchmaking. And and I do that because there is such a need for it, right? Like we talked about, a lot of vegans, they cannot, just don't see themselves dating someone who's a meat eater. And so I provide this service to them. And I also do coaching. And I also do courses. So I'm actually going to be launching my first course very, very soon. So I'm just so fortunate to be able to work with people one-on-one and really help them transform and help them find that vegan partner.
Why do you think it's hard for people to find love? Like, why is that a challenge?
Yeah, well, first of all, and to go back to what you said about people out there who are just maybe going vegan now, like that support network is super, super huge, because I still talk to people in like California that tell me that they don't even have any vegan friends. I'm just like blown away, because California's like, it's so full of vegans, right? But it's true. So a lot of people who are busy professionals, and they don't go out to bars, and they don't, they go out, but it's hard to meet other people, like vegan or not vegan. So on top of that, when you're looking for someone vegan, it's even harder, right? So, and then being single, it's, a lot of people think that they're single for a certain reason, but it's actually not the reason that they think. And this is really something that I've discovered while working one-on-one with my clients. And oftentimes what happens is that people put up walls and they are blocking their own love lives. So they do that because of something that happened in the past that they can't let go of, or they have a certain judgment about something, or they don't feel worthy. So I'm like super, super passionate about helping people because, you know, I was married for 15 years. I left him, and you know, that was like going through a divorce was very, very difficult, but I still remain like super optimistic and positive, and I knew that I would find love again, and I didn't give up hope. And I really like sharing my journey with people, to be able to help them, because, you know, if you're single and you want to be single, that's totally fine, right? There's a right time and place to be in a relationship. Perhaps you're focusing on your career, or you were in a long-term relationship and you just want alone time for a long time, and that's fine. But I really, you know, I really love helping people that, you know, they know that they want a partner, they want to share life with a vegan partner, and they are ready and they are motivated. And I just love being able to help people get there.
Yeah, it must be such a gratifying feeling when you accomplish your goal. You know, you set out to find, you know, match someone up, and maybe you match them up, and then you ask how things are going, and you know they're dating and they're seeing each other, and they're having a good time, and I imagine you stay connected throughout the process, right? Like as
Oh,
like let's say they match, and they're dating, you stay connected throughout that process. Yeah.
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I only take on 10 active clients at a time. And that is because I want to make sure that I have enough time and energy to dedicate to all of my clients. And yes, so that allows me to stay super connected with my clients at all times. And just literally, like just the other day, I got some amazing news from one of my clients that I can't share right now, but it was amazing news. Like, I was floored. He like basically said that, you know, he had a certain ideal woman in mind, and I literally gave him that, like, to the T. And it was just like, it made me realize, like, holy shit, like I really am good. Like when that kind of stuff happens, it's so magical. I have two other clients that were single for many, many years, and then literally after a few months of working with me, they found love. And so sometimes, like, it's not rocket science, but it just takes being able to let go and being coachable and being able to look at things in a new perspective. And that's actually why I decided to start launching dating courses, because I was working one-on-one with my clients, and it just made me realize, like, relationships are really, really hard, especially as a vegan. So I put together a course. It's called Ready for Love, and it's basically helping people, like, along every step of the way to get to a super amazing place where they feel confident and powerful and happy and ready to enter in a relationship. So I decided that all my matchmaking clients would go through the course before I start matching them up, so that they can be like super successful.
That's great. Yeah, that's awesome. And so what do you find some things that, like, what are some identifiers that you say, like, this is a good match? You know, like how do you differentiate between, like, compatibility? Like, what are some factors?
Yeah, so when someone becomes a client, we have a video session, because obviously I work with clients all over US and Canada, so I unfortunately can't get to meet all my clients in person. But so we have a video chat. I really get to know them. I ask them a lot of deep, deep questions. And then I ask them, like, and we talk about who it is that they're looking for in an ideal partner. And then I start creating like a roadmap of who their ideal partner is. And then they go through the course. And while they're going through the course, I'm like working behind the scenes to find them someone. And so basically what I look for is, I have my database, right? Which is totally free to get into, by the way. So you get in my database, and then I start looking through my database of what profiles I have. And it's the database I have was actually designed for matchmakers, which is really, really cool. So I have a profile. I click a button, and then the database automatically generates certain matches that they think are compatible with the person. But of course, like for me, it's way more than just what the computer says, right? It's just a start, because it's a huge database, so it would take forever to have to go through each profile at a time. So anyway, so I go through that process. I look at a profile, and then if I think that the person sounds interesting, I send them a message and I say, hey, I have a client, here's a description, like, what do you think? And then if they say yes, they're interested, I schedule a time with them to do a video chat. And again, video chat's super important for me because I want to see their body language. I want to see, like, how they react. So I spend a lot of time getting to know them. And again, I ask them really, really deep personal questions, and I tell them all about my client. And then I really rely on my intuition, which is like usually really bang on. And so at the end of the video call, if I think the person is a good fit, like the person really has to truly be a good fit, and I have a really good feeling about it, then I tell my client about them and I say, hey, I have this amazing person, like, what do you think? And then we talk about it. That's kind of how it works.
Wow, that's super cool. Yeah, I mean, you could, like, it's interesting to hear, like, the process and how it goes out, and then you just imagine like how that could be definitely affected, and sometimes it's even better. Like, sometimes we don't know what we want 100%, you know what I mean? And sometimes it takes obviously an outsider's perspective,
Yes.
to like kind of say, no, I think these are the reasons why might match up. What are some like specific things that you're like, what, if I see, this person likes this, that's going to go well together? What are a couple things that you're like, oh, these are some nice compatibility features that I notice?
Yeah. So for example, one of my clients, he's an entrepreneur, and he's able to work from anywhere. So he was really looking for a partner who was also in the same kind of career, because it means that you have more flexibility with your schedule, and it means that you can take time off pretty much whenever you want or work from anywhere. So I really look at the lifestyle as like a really good base. And then of course, because like everyone has like their physical things of what they're looking for in a partner, right? But I didn't mention this before, but I actually don't even show pictures. So when I'm introducing people, I do not show pictures.
Interesting.
Yeah, and people really, really like that approach, because you can't get that anywhere else, right? When
Yeah,
you're going
it's
on,
unique.
when you're dating online, you see the person's picture, and oftentimes people are so quick to judge a book by its cover. So I don't show pictures. So people are getting to know each other the old-fashioned way, by talking on the phone or going straight to a date.
Yeah.
And so you can't like Google the person, you can't like scope them all out on the internet. Like, so it's a totally different approach. But yeah, I look at lifestyle, I look at the big thing is like whether or not they want kids, right? And so that's why matchmaking is such a cool, totally different alternative to anything else, because I'm essentially like weeding out the bad apples for you. And you're only going, like, my clients are only going on dates with people who are truly compatible to them. And oftentimes it's people that I'm introducing my clients to people that they would otherwise never meet. Like, I would say like 3/4 of my clients, they don't do online dating. And it's because they have high profile jobs, and they don't want their information to be on a dating website, right? So you really do get to be connected with people that you wouldn't otherwise get. And yeah, and people like just having an outsider match you with someone is huge. Like, I have a couple of women clients who say that they always pick the worst men. So they didn't want to keep doing that. So they wanted somebody else to pick the men for them.
Imagine if that's the way the world worked. Like, somebody else could choose your match. You know what I mean?
Well, I
I mean,
mean,
that's the way it is in some cultures, right?
yes, I was just
Yeah.
going to say that in Indian cultures and Jewish cultures, I mean, matchmaking is huge. That's just a part um, of their culture. And so for that reason, I have a couple of Indian clients and I have a couple of Jewish clients as well. And so yeah, it's very interesting.
So on the flip side, what are some things that you see that like, hey, that's definitely, they're not going to be compatible? Like, no way. What are some things that you see?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the most obvious thing is, I have a client who's extremely extroverted. He's been salsa dancing for 10 years and very outgoing, and he's like a hardcore vegan. And I was actually interviewing someone for him as a potential match, and I did the video chat, of course. And the person was like super quiet, really reserved. I was like, that's not gonna work.
Yeah. What are some other things that you see they're like they're not going to be compatible?
Sometimes it's also, you're gonna find this interesting, but it's also the vegan versus vegetarian thing. So there are some vegans who will not even consider a vegetarian. Again, like I tell everyone to be as open-minded as they can because the pool of veg singles is so small. So why would you want to close even more doors, right? And vegetarian is not that far from vegan. And I'm sure that if, someone was vegetarian and with a date with a vegan, that they would be more inclined and they would have like that extra reason to want to go vegan. So why not like consider that, right?
Yeah, sometimes vegetarians they think they're doing the right thing and they just never learned,
Yeah,
that dairy or eggs does harm animals.
exactly.
Or sometimes they just yeah, there might be some sort of disconnect somewhere, or they just never
Yeah,
thought about it, or
yeah,
like even my cousin's been vegetarian. Well, he was vegan at birth because his dad was vegan, but then like he went vegetarian, but then most of the time he just just did it just because like it wasn't too much ingrained into like I'm
yeah.
doing this for a reason. It was just I just always done it this way. So I think yeah, there's definitely a lot of that too. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So is there anything that maybe you really, really want to add that you didn't add already, or maybe there's something that you really want to reiterate that's just so important, like maybe one big thing?
Yeah, I would just say that, if you're single and you're vegan and you know that being with a vegan partner is something that's super important to you, don't compromise by going on dates with meat eaters. Because anytime you compromise, you will never be happy, no matter how hard you try. And unfortunately, I've heard this from many, many people that they tell me they feel like they have no choice because they can't find any vegan singles. And so that's like another reason why I am just so dedicated to the work that I do, because I don't see it as impossible. Yes, it's harder, but it's not impossible. And so I try to do whatever I can to encourage people, don't compromise. You won't be happy. Get out there, join more like vegan Facebook groups, join my free database. Like there's a number of different options. So just like do not compromise. But really that database, it's you sign up, you fill out a profile. It's for my eyes only. Nobody else sees it. And that is used for me to potentially match you with my clients. So you have a chance, right? It's a small chance because it's a big database and there's lots of people and I only take on a small number of clients at once. But hey, it's a chance and it has worked and I have matched up my clients with people from my database, right? So if you're looking for help and you know that you're ready to find a veg partner and you want my help, reach out to me and let's talk and let's see if you're a good potential fit for my program.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, where are places that people could find you if they're looking maybe for you or for information uh, about what you're doing? Where are the
Yeah,
best
so
places?
so I put out a lot of free content out there. Okay, so I do live videos quite often. I do lots of blog articles. So you can go to my website, findveglove.com. All the information is there. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. And you can also sign up for my free masterclass, which is basically 40 minutes class. Again, free content. I try to do as much free content as I can. So that one is findveglove.com/masterclass.
All right, awesome. And then, as usual, I'll put all the links somewhere up here on the YouTube as you guys are going by and in the description. So thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. I'm really rooting for you and all your success. I mean, I know that finding love is very important for everyone, and especially for vegans, because it's a little bit more challenging and it's a little bit more critical for most of us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait for everyone to get a chance to listen to this, and I'll be talking to you soon.
Awesome.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for listening to the podcast. Please, please, please make sure that you guys share this with anyone that you think will find this interesting, and also make sure that you guys subscribe, because I can see a lot of you guys are listening but you aren't subscribed. So please subscribe, and also don't forget to go to my website where you can leave comments and see more content at veganluna.com.